Good morning, everyone. In the last session, we discussed about the one of the important concept to call lambda expression here. Now, inside this particular lambda expression, we identified multiple example here, like how we can create a without the lambda parameter, and we discuss about the with parameter also. So today we'll discuss about the another important section called how we can pass lambda as a parameter, the method parameter. So this is another important concept today we'll try to identify. Now we'll see how we can write a simple example to pass the entire lambda as a parameter. Now, if we want to provide a earlier example, what we did, if you go to this particular string function, okay, so this is the functional interface we created because the functional interface is having only one method, this particular function method. Okay, now what exactly this particular function method is doing here? Now this function method will pass as a parameter to the lambda, or will pass as a parameter to the method. Now if you see, so where we are using, I think this is the section of example we are using here. Now you can see what I'm doing here. This is basically lambda body. Okay, now entire this particular code I'm going to pass to the method. Now how I'm going to pass this particular section of code? Now here, this section of code I'm trying to comment out. Now observe carefully, here I'm trying to create a one method. Okay, now inside this particular class level I'm trying to create a one method, so static method, so that we cannot create a object for this particular class here. Now this method, it will try to return as a string, because the functional method also, the string functional method also, now internally it is trying to return as a string here. Now after this, what I'm doing here, so string operation. Now this string operation we are trying to perform here. Now if we observe carefully, inside this particular method I'm trying to provide as a parameter, lambda parameter, because the lambda internally it is going to work with a functional interface. Now in place of this particular lambda, now what I'm trying to do here I'm trying to providing our functional interface here, so string function. Getting the point? Now simply I can provide as a SF. So for SF is nothing but string function. Getting the point? So this is what we need to understand here. Now if you observe carefully, string operation is the name of the method, which is having the type called string return type. The behavior we are trying to make as a static, because without creating an object, this method we can call here. Now if you observe, one parameter I'm trying to provide as a functional interface. So second parameter, now I'm trying to give as a string parameter. Now carefully observe what I'm doing here. Now what I'm doing here, now simply I'm trying to return here with help of this particular SF dot. This is a function. Now this is a parameter. The function parameter is expecting. Now carefully observe, we come up with the one method which is expecting first parameter as a functional interface, and the second parameter, whatever the parameter we are going to pass to the functional interface, whatever the function method we are having here. Now carefully observe what I'm doing here. Now we come up with the method creation. Now whenever I'm trying to call this particular method, this is important here. Whenever I'm trying to call this particular method, so which method we are trying to call? String OP. Okay, something like a string operation. Getting the point? String operation. Now if you want to understand this particular string operation, first string str is equals to, so this is a lambda. Okay, now str I'm trying to give as a lambda. Now initially what I will do, I want to convert into the lowercase. So whatever the lambda we given as uppercase, now we'll try to convert into the lowercase. So how I'm going to convert into lowercase? Now if you observe, I'm calling the method called string operation. Getting the point? I'm calling the method called string operation. The method is expecting one parameter. Okay, this method, now it is expecting the parameter. What is the parameter I'm passing? Str, and here after str dot 2 lowercase. Okay, str dot 2 or lowercase. Now what is the value we need to pass? Okay, this str we cannot give, something like s we can give. Now here I will pass as a str. So carefully observe here. Now what I'm doing is, now simply I'm calling this entire, this section we'll call it as a lambda. Now if you observe carefully here, lambda now, lambda is expecting the parameter. Okay, and this is the right side is the body of the lambda. Now how it is differentiating? With help of this particular arrow operator. Now earlier whatever we discussed here, the same concept I am implementing. But if you observe here, this string operation is the method. String operation is a method we are calling, and inside the method, the first parameter what I'm doing is I'm trying to provide the lambda as a parameter. The second one, it is a string here, simple string here. Getting the pen. Now this is the one way to pass the lambda as a parameter. Now using this particular s1, I'm trying to print here so that we can understand whether the given lambda now it is printing as a lowercase or not. Okay, whatever the lambda we given, the lambda value, it should be written as a lowercase. Now you can see, now here lambda is coming as a lowercase, but what is the value we given? Uppercase value. Now using this particular lambda expression, now we convert from uppercase into lowercase. So this is the first example. Now what about the second example? Now if you want to understand, in the yesterday example, we use this particular code to return the reverse order. So same concept now I'm going to implement using this particular method here. So to implement this, now what we can do, here I'm trying to copy this, whatever we discussed in the yesterday example. Now copy this one and paste it here. After this, you can provide the whatever you want to provide the str value. Okay, now if you see, this is the second value I'm trying to providing as a method parameter. Now, so sysout, I can provide s value, so that the first one it is trying to return as a lowercase, the second one it is trying to return as a reverse order. Now you can see, first one is lowercase, second one is reverse order, with the same whatever the string we are using here. But now what you need to understand here, if I want to provide lambda as a parameter, but the method what I declare here, functional interface. Here you can see, this is not the lambda, it is a functional interface. Okay, it is a functional interface I provided. Now whenever I provided this particular functional interface, what we are doing is we are trying to providing lambda as a parameter, method parameter, and here also the multiple lines of code also we are providing as a single parameter here. This entire concept, whatever highlighted this multiple lines of code, internally it will convert as a functional interface, and whenever we are calling the function method, it will override the function method, and whatever the lambda body we are having, it will place into the functional interface method here. Okay, so this is what we need to understand here. Now any questions? So regarding this particular lambda as a parameter? Okay, now if you don't have anything, now we'll try to identify with the different type of example. You can provide any number of lines of code. Now you can see here we come up with a more than one line here. Now this is the first example, we come up with a single line statement. Okay, now entire the logical programs, whatever we will try to discuss in our upcoming classes, all we can perform with help of this particular lambda expressions here. Now another important section, how we can provide the exception related. Okay, how we can provide the exception related stuff. So to provide here, now what I'm checking here I'm going to check the condition. For example here, if n dot length equals to 0. Okay, n dot length, if it is equals to 0, now what I will do, So I will try to throw an exception. Okay, so simply I will try to throw an exception from lambda body. Okay, so this is how it is going to work here. Now observe carefully what is saying here. Now add an exception to the method signature. So which method signature we need to add? Because this is a string operation method. So inside the string operation method, now we're trying to throw an exception. Now I need to add this one. Now if you see here, so if you observe carefully where we added here, now if you go to the string function, here you can see we are throwing an exception. We are throwing an exception. This is the function method which we define under this particular functional interface. Now still we are getting an error. Now here you can see what is saying here. You need to handle this. Otherwise you need to throw an exception. Now what I will do, I will come up with a try and catch block here. I will come up with a try and catch block. Now this is fine. Now another important section, in place of this particular str, I am not providing lambda here. So these two we can comment out so that we may not get a different type of exceptions here. Okay, lambda value I'm removing. So I'm trying to run with a debug mode. Now, okay, this is the toasting we are using. So here you can see exception from lambda body. Now why we are getting this exception from lambda body? Because whatever we provided, whatever we provided str is an empty. So str we given as empty because here this condition is satisfying now. This particular condition is satisfying. If the condition is satisfying, what we are doing is we are trying to return this particular message here, exception from lambda body. The same message now it is trying to return here. Okay, so along with the lambda body, we can handle this type of exceptions also. Based on our requirement, we can add conditions, we can rethrow the exceptions here. Okay, so this is the simple way of writing the exception related. So to understand with one more example, now observe carefully. Now if you observe carefully how we are going to perform here. I'm going to create one more interface here. So this is important here. Now this particular interface, so double function. Okay, the name of the class I'm trying to create as a double function. Under this particular double function, this method will return as a double, and the name of the function, same name I'm going to take here, and it will try to take as a array values. Okay, it will try to take as a array values. Now we need to create a one exception class. Empty array exception. Getting the point? Empty array exception I'm trying to create here. So this particular class, now it will extend from the exception. Okay, this is the class I'm going to use here. Now go to here, this particular method, it should throw an a, this is an exception. Now carefully observe, we created one double function. So double function is a functional interface. Now we are having the method name called function, which is expecting the parameter 1, and the type of the parameter is double array. Now internally we are throwing an exception here. So we'll see how we can perform this type of example. Now for this purpose, what we can do, double lambda demo. Okay, so this is the class I'm trying to use it. Now inside this particular class, now again we can go for the main method. Now here, first what we need a double array values. So I'm trying to create a double values. Okay, so these are the values, the double array values I'm trying to create. Now after this, now what I will do, we'll call the functional interface. If I want to call this particular functional interface, simply what we can do, first we need to define this. What is the functional functional interface name? Double function. Okay, double function. Now here, this double function is expecting parameter. Now what is the parameter we can provide? Something like a val I'm giving. Okay, val I'm giving. Now here, inside this, now what I'm trying to check here, now if you observe carefully, first I need to check the condition here. So what is the condition I need to check? I want to perform the sum operations here. I want to perform the sum operation. So before checking the sum operation, n dot length, or not n, it is a val dot length equals to 0. So throw new empty array expression, empty array exception. Now after this, what I will do, we'll go for the loop here. Int I is equals to 0, I less than val dot length, and what is the last parameter, I plus plus. Okay, so this is what we need to understand. Now after this, after performing this particular loop, what I will do, so this is a sum plus is equals to, here we can provide the I. Okay, and finally return sum. Finally return sum. Now what you will understand here, I'm going to call the method. So what is the method we need to call here? Sysout values dot, not values method, it should be double function dot function values. So this will handle the exception, right? Here only I'm trying to define the method. Okay, now what I'm trying to do, let me handle the exception here only, surround with a try and catch block. Okay, so now if we got an exception, this will handle, otherwise this particular print statement, it will print here. Now if you see, this is the value we are getting. This is the sum of whatever this particular value we provided. Okay, now another important section, what you need to understand basically here. Now this is the double value we are having. I'm copying this and repaste the same concept here, but I'm not going to provide any value. Now this length is 0. So whenever length is 0, I will print the, okay, no need to print any statement because catch plug will handle. Now it will try to provide the exception message. Now here you can see empty array exception is handling here. Now what is the message we are providing? Currently we are not providing any message, but using this particular empty array exception, we can easily understand why we are getting an exception, because the double values, whatever the parameter we are providing, the parameter does not contain the value. The length of the values are 0. So earlier we given the value, but currently to test the exception related stuff, now I remove the value so that we are getting an exception. But if you see this particular section of throwing an exception, where we are using inside the lambda body. Okay, inside the lambda body we are using. So this is very important concept we need to understand here. So still any questions? So regarding this particular exception related? Okay. So if you don't have anything, now just practice so far whatever we discussed yesterday and today. These are the basic example as well as important example. Now we'll go for the another important concept to call method references. So now we identified as of now lambda expressions with different parameters and different type of lambda body. Now internally lambda, it is going to use the functional interface. Now how this particular method reference concept is going to be used here. So now this is another important feature is introduced under the 1.8 version. So what is the first important feature? Lambda expression. Second one is functional interface. Now the third one is method references. Now we need to understand here how this method reference is going to be used here. Now basically here, instead of providing this entire lambda expression, now what we will do, we can provide the alternative to the method references concept here. So we'll see how it is going to be executed. So to work with this particular method references here, now first what you need to understand here, syntax here. Now the syntax basically, this is the class name, okay, and here we need to provide these are the two columns. Getting the point? After providing the column name, now we need to provide the name of the method name here. Name of the method name. So this is also important concept here. Now you can see it's a simple concept here. But first we need to provide the class name, and later we need to provide this particular method name, so that internally again this section of code also it is going to call the same functional interface here. Same functional interface here. Okay, we'll see how it is going to be implemented here. To understand this, where we implemented the string related example, we'll go for the same here. So I think this one, yeah. Now if we observe carefully, here, now what I'm doing is I'm trying to find out the lambda. Okay, earlier this is the section of code we used here to perform with the lambda expression. Lambda expression. Now what I am doing here, I am removing this. Okay, I am removing this. So instead of removing, now what we can do, we can comment out this. Okay, so I commented the first line. Now the second line, if you observe, with help of this particular behavior, now I'm trying to use the method references concept here. So how we can use it? Now here I will remove this. Okay, I will remove this particular lambda related stuff here. Now two lowercase is coming from which class here? That is coming from the string here. Okay, string. Now I'm using double colon. Getting the point? So here I'm using double colon. So what is the method we need to call here? Two lowercase. Okay, this is the two lowercase method. Now you can see, now whenever I'm calling here, earlier we come up with this particular section of code as a lambda expression. Now in place of lambda expression, now what I'm doing here, I'm trying to use the method references. But even though we are using the method references, but finally which functional interface is calling it? Whatever the string functional interface we defined here, the same functional interface is calling. Now what you need to understand here, even though you are using the lambda expressions as well as functional interface, lambda expressions and method references, but these two concepts are going to be used internally functional interface. Now let me execute this. So I will stop this particular section of code, like I'm commenting here, so that we'll see the first example whether it is returning a lowercase or not. Now you can see it is trying to return as a lowercase. Even though we are using method references concept, now it is converting as a lowercases. Okay, so this is what we need to understand here. So this particular section of code, we'll call it as a method references. Inside the method references, first we are providing the class name, and later we are providing this particular method name. What is the method you want to provide? So for example, if we want to return in place of this particular two lowercase, we are having so different type of method. These are the methods which are available under the string class. Okay, you can use any one of the method based on our requirement here. Getting the point? So for example, I want to use something like a join method, but here, so this string related method we'll discuss later, but now you can see nothing is printing. Why? Because so this particular join is expecting different type of parameters here. We'll see how we can provide those parameter values here. But current example, whatever we implemented with the lambda expression, same concept I implemented with the method references here. Okay. Now we'll identify what is a basically this is a alternative behavior of this particular lambda expression. So whatever the lambda expression we define, if you are not interested to provide with a lambda, now simply you can use method references call. Directly you can call the specific method will return here. Okay. So here now the lines of code also is going to be reduced here. Now here you can see finally what we are doing is we are trying to return this particular string method. We are trying to return string here. Now, so same concept here, we are having a predefined one method which is available under this particular so string buffer reverse method. What is saying here? Non-static method. Okay. So we are trying to access the non-static method in the static context here. We'll see so how we can come up with this particular string buffer related reverse method. But if you want to provide any explicit behavior, in that case, what we can do, we can go for the customized method. You can go for the customized method. So we'll see how we can go for this particular customized methods to perform this type of operations here. So this type of example we'll discuss more about in the collection framework. But right now, just to observe the basic information, how we can work with method references as well as lambda expressions. In the collection, we'll have a multiple values so that we can perform this type of operations one more time in the collection framework here. Okay. So here, but this is important here. If you miss this particular colon, double colon, it is not going to be work here. So this is also very important concept here because it is a separator for the class as well as method here. Now, this simple example, what we will do here, we are going to provide the customized method here. Okay, we are going to provide the customized method. Now, if you understand here, I'm using the same concept, this particular section of code, the reverse related section of code, how we can use with the method references here. Because this is we identify lambda expression. Now we need to come up with the method references. To work on with the method references here, first we need to go to this particular, what is the function name? Yeah, string function we are using here. Now inside this particular string function, okay, we'll use the throws exception. Now after this, now here I want to create a one class here. Okay. Now here my string operation. This is the class I'm using. My string operation, static behavior I'm using. Okay. Now here you can see string here. This is the str reverse method. Now here it will expect as a str. Now inside this particular str, whatever we discussed, whatever we provided this particular code here. Okay, so this is not a n, it is a str. Okay, this is an str. Now you can see we come up with the one separator class here. So the same logic, whatever the logic we use with the help of this particular lambda expression, now I come up with the one method here. So this method we are going to call with the help of this particular method references here. So now if you go to here, lambda demo, okay, now we'll keep this as it is. Now here, okay, so here only I am going to call this particular section of code here. S2 and remove this particular string here. Now my string operation and string reverse. So carefully observe here. Now this is important here. Now this is a customized class I created. Okay. Now if you go to this is a myString operation class. Now inside the myString operation, we are calling the method called string reverse. Okay, string reverse. But if you see, this method is expecting the parameter. This method is now is expecting the parameter. But if you go to this particular block of code, here we are not passing the parameter. So just we are calling the method here. But how it is going to pass this particular parameter here? This is very important. We need to understand here. This parameter, it is going to be executed with help of this particular functional interface. For example, now here, this is a string function. Along with this particular string n, now I'm trying to providing str. If you see, now we'll get an error. Now we'll get an error. If you go to this particular section of code, here we are getting an error and here also we are getting an error. Now why we are getting an error? Because whatever this str we are passing, now this str it is written into this particular function method, like the inside the functional interface, whatever the method we define here. Now this functional interface function method is changed the parameter. The method parameter is now changed. Is expecting two parameters. But if you go to here we are passing the one parameter. It is not matching. It is not matching. Now what you need to understand, even though you are using lambda expression as well as method references, the functional interface method parameter should match here. Functional interface method parameter should match with either lambda expression or method references here. So this is very important here. Because of this, we are not providing parameter. This particular str is going to take care of providing the method parameter of this particular whatever the customized method we created here. Okay, this is very important. We need to understand here. Now I'm roll back the changes here because the functional interface is going to play a very important role with lambda expressions as well as method references here. So anything, if we want to work with the method reference as lambda, what we can do, we need to provide the proper method parameter here. So then only it will match here. Now, if I'm trying to print this particular S2, if I print this particular S2, we can understand here the customized code is executing or not. Okay, now the customized code is okay, anything is missing, but we are expecting something like a reverse code here. Okay, now this particular code we are not returning here. Let's see, anything it is missing. Result, okay, caret. Now go for the same example. Okay, same str I'm using. Now run this particular example, we'll see. Now you can see, now it is returning the return here, like a reverse order. So whatever the reverse order we are expecting here. But what you need to understand basically here, you need to understand the important section, how we can create a customized the classes to perform the method references here. So this is the customized class I created and this is the predefined class. Now, so the join method, whatever I discussed about the join method. Now if you see string dot join method. Now here, how many parameters is expecting? two parameter we is expecting. First is a char sequence. Second one is something like the one more method is expecting the char sequence parameters here. So this is the first parameter and this is the second parameter. But because of this particular two parameter, the functional interface function whatever we created, it is not matching here. It is not matching. This is a important section of code. So whenever we are trying to work with a functional interface with lambda expressions or method references, all the parameters should match here. Okay. So still any questions regarding this particular method references? Okay. Now another important concept here, if we observe carefully here, this is the static behavior. The string operation method, whatever we created, it is a static method. And two lowercase. Now if you go to this two lowercase, now what happening internally? This is not a static method. Getting the point? Now observe whatever this str we created, this is a static method. This is a static method. Now what happens if I remove this? Now what happens if I remove this? So carefully observe. If you go to here, now we are getting an error here. Now we are getting an error. So why we are getting an error here? This particular str reverse is a newly created method. Okay, this particular method, so it is an instance method. It is not a static method. Now normal cases, whenever we are having an instance method, so how we will access basically for the normal cases, first we'll create an object. After creating an object, now we'll call the method. What about the static method? For the static method, without creating an object, directly with help of the class name, now we'll call it. The previous example, whenever the method is having static, what we did, simply we call with a class name here. Okay, we call with a class name. But currently the method does not contain the static behavior. So if the method does not contain the static behavior, now we are throwing in some compilation error here. Now I want to fix this. Even though I want to come up with an instance method, I don't want to go for the static method. Now what is the best way of providing this? Okay, now here first we need to create an object here. So in that case, now first we need to create this is a object called myString operation. Operation is equals to new myString operation. After creating this particular object, whatever the object you are going to get here, with help of this particular object parameter, now you can call the same method. So carefully observe. So this is the way of creating an object here. After creating an object, now with help of the object reference, now I'm calling the same method. Now let me run the same example here. Now here you can see whatever the expected reverse value, now we are getting this particular reverse value here. So this is what we need to understand here. With the static, now without the static here. Okay, this is also important here because all the cases we are not going to come up with a static behavior. Some cases will go for this particular non-static also. So this is important concept we need to understand here. Okay, so this is all about the method references concept here. So let's run with a simple example. Now how we are going to perform with another example here. Now here I will show you one more example here with a generic type here. Okay, with a generic type here. So how we can come up with a generic type here. So as of now we did not discuss about the functional interface with a generic behavior. So normal method we discuss here, we'll try to identify with a generic type how we can provide all the important sections here. So to understand this, now we need to create one customized class here. Close other classes here. First, we need to create a interface. So simply, so do we have a, no. This is the my function, one of the functional interface I'm trying to create. It is expecting generic type. It is expecting generic type. Now Boolean, I'm trying to return the method. So same function method. Okay. And inside this, t value 1 and value 2. Now what you are understanding is this particular functional interface is having one method and it is expecting two parameters. These two parameters are also dynamic parameters. Okay, but as of now, earlier example, if you go to this particular string function, this will accept only string related stuff. This will accept only the string related stuff here. But here, whatever the my function I provided, it will not accept only string. It will also accept the different data type here. This is the behavior we are going to understand with the help of this particular generics here. Now let's observe after creating this particular function. Now I want to go for the class here. So the class I want to find out there some temperature related example. Now how we will identify something like a high temp here. Okay, high temp. Now here so this is the one variable I created. Now what I will do, constructor. Okay, this is the constructor. Whatever the parameter we are going to provide, so initializing into this particular high temperature. After this, now we are going to compare with two methods. First method, same temperature. So how we will check the same temperature? Here we'll pass the object here. Okay, the same temperature method is expecting the object here. Now using this object, using this particular object, what we will do here, htemp is equals to I'm checking this. This is the first method. Now one more method, boolean. So less than the temp, like less than the temperature. So here also it will accept, it will try to take as a parameter object to type here. Now so here the current temperature, if it is less than to h22 dot htemp, so that it will return true or false. Now this is what we need to understand. Now the temperature related class we created one constructor with two different type of methods. Now after this what I will do, I need to work with the important section call one generic type related method. So generic type related method, so this class we cannot use. Now I'll go for the generic purpose with a different class here. Okay, one generic class I created. So why I'm creating this generic class? Because here we are going to use a generic method, and the generic method is going to work with static method. Okay, now this method will return into name of the method as a counter, and the name of the method it will try to take as a generic parameters here. First parameter, and here I'm going to use my function. The my function internally we come up with a generic type here, and here name of the function reference variable and current value. Okay, so to work with this particular generic type, here we need to define the inside the section of code we need to define the T. Now after this, now what I am doing here, based on this particular generic type of array values, I will try to repeat one by one into count is equals to 0. After this, I am using the loop concept here to repeat one by one value. Now into I is equals to 0 and I less than whatever this particular value we are having, I am going to check the condition as a length here, and I plus plus. So after this, here I will check the if condition. Okay, here I am checking the if condition, f dot function. Now how many parameters are expecting here? 2 parameters. The first one is value of I. Okay, this function now it is matching with this particular current value. So here I'm going to lower the values one by one, and inside this particular collection of values, if this particular value is matching, now what we will do, we'll try to increase the count here so that the same record repeatedly is coming here. Now finally return count here. Okay, so this is the count method we'll do with a generic here. This is the generic method we created here. So here if you what you need to understand, functional interface we are making as a method parameter. Okay, so this is all about the count method we'll do. And if you go to this particular functional interface function method, what is doing it? It is trying to return the Boolean value. But here what you need to understand here, how it is going to check, how this particular function interface method will return Boolean value. This type of logic we need to write here. Now here you can see just we are checking here the given value it is available, we are increasing the count, otherwise the count is not going to be increased here. After this particular counter method is implemented, now we'll go for the main method. Okay, so here main method I'm trying to define here. So simply to find out the count, I'm using declaration here. I'm using this particular declaration concept here. Now if I want to call this particular method, we need multiple values here. The first parameter is expecting array type. Here what I will do, I will go for the item class here. It is a array type here. So in the weekdays, how this particular temperature is going to be available here. So to understand this, what we need here, we need to create a object here. Now constructor something like 56 here. So second object something like 45. Okay, third object something like 23. Fourth object 32. Okay, now these are the object I create so that it will initialize as the array values. After this, now what I will do, I'm going to call the counter. I'm calling the counter. So weekdays, the first parameter I'm providing. What about this particular second parameter? So second parameter, if you see here inside the counter method, Second parameter we are passing as a functional interface. So whenever we are passing the functional interface, what we can do, we can provide the either lambda expression, or we can go for the what is another important section, method references. Now we'll check for the method references. Now if I want to check here, now here high temp class we are having. Now either you can call the same temperature or less than temperature. Okay. Now here I'm going to call. So high temperature, save or same temperature I'm calling here. Now, what is an object you want to pass? Because here we are doing the comparison. The last parameter we are doing the comparison. So what is the comparison we can provide here? Now if you see 56 here. So this is the counter method. Now counter method basically what it will do, it will try to return as a integer value. Now what we can identify, if the given temperature, if it is available, it will increase the count, otherwise the count will return as a 0. So to understand, I'm calling this particular counter so that we can identify how many, like based on the counter value, we can identify the temperature, how many times it is matched here. But here it is trying to return as a one time. Getting the point? Here it is trying to return as a one time. Now whenever it is trying to return as a one time, the given temperature it is matched only one time. For example, here I want to return as a 1 2. Here I want to given as a 1 2. Now you can see 0. So 0 means it is not matching here. Like none of the temperatures are not matched here. Okay. This is all about the another important section. So in place of this particular same, now I will go for the less than the temperature. Now here I will give you the 56 here. Now I am giving the 56. Now here you can see the count we are getting as a 3. So these are the less than temperatures counts here. Using this particular array, now we are trying to check one by one how many temperatures are matched as of now. Three new temperatures are matched with the current condition here. So these are the 3 less than to this particular. These are the 3 less than to this particular 56 here. Because of this, which method it is calling? This one. Earlier, this particular method it is calling here. Okay. So this is a way of providing the method references with a generic type also. This is very important example we discuss here with the help of this particular method references here. Now we provided the functional interface, method references, and generic the functional interface here. So these are the important section we need to understand here. Okay. Any questions? Still any questions regarding this particular example? Okay. So now here another important section, the same example. Now I'm going to come up with another important way. So observe carefully how I'm trying to execute this particular example here. So this is one way of writing an example. Now another way of writing this particular method references with the generic concept here. Now whatever the functional interface we define here. Now here what is expecting here. So these are the single parameters. Now I want to take as a multiple values. My function Okay, my function 2 I'm defining, and this will take as a generic example. Okay, don't confuse here. So I'm trying to take as a same, but here the first parameter now it will take as a multiple values. Second one, single value. So that from the multiple values, we'll compare with a single value here. This is what we need to understand here. Okay. After defining this particular functional interface, now we need to go for the class here. Okay. Now here, because inside the class, we need to define the generic method. My array operation, and here static method I'm trying to providing count to matching. This method will return int here, and here t values and tv. Now here generic type. So after providing this particular method, now what I'm doing here, so same concept, whatever we implemented in the generic class. But here, so carefully observe, instead of calling this particular functional interface, now simply what I'm doing here I'm trying to check this. Simply here I'm trying to check this one. If this particular condition is satisfied, we'll increase the value. Otherwise, the value will become 0. So this is be implemented. Now after this, so if we observe carefully, here only I'm going to provide the one more method. Static method, and this static method also will take as a generic type here. So my operation, and here my function 2 we need to provide. Okay, my function 2, and here type I'm providing as a f, so that we can identify my function value. After this, here I'm passing, okay, and tv. So carefully observe whatever we provided in the previous example. So simply return f dot function method values comma and v, values comma v. Okay, this is the one more generic method. So 2 generic method I'm providing you. Now using this particular 2 generic method, we'll create a main class here. So now we'll go for the main class, or we can perform here only. Why we need to go to the another class here. Now first here, if I want to call this particular generic method as well as functional interface, what we need to do here. So any case we are expecting multiple values first. First we need to create a multiple values. Now how we can create? First one I'm trying to create a integer array. So these are the values I provided. Now after providing this, now let me go for the string also. So string, we can go for the six here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here. So after this, what we can identify here, after this, what we can identify? Count here. Okay, because my operation will return the count here. Now I'm calling this particular my operation. I'm calling this my operation. Now my operation, what is expecting basically here? It is expecting here functional interface. So in place of functional interface, what we will do, we will provide the method references here. So how I'm trying to providing the method references here. So carefully observe. My array operation, double colon, okay, count matching, getting the point. But if you see count matching, what is expecting here? Now if you see here, count matching is expecting the array type, generic type here. Generic array type is expecting. So whenever we are having this particular generic array type, now we need to provide the type also. For example, here I'm trying to providing values. So value I'm trying to providing, and the last one I can give you as a 65. Last one I can give as a 65. So carefully observe, count matching, it is expecting something like a type here. Now here I'm going to return as a this particular count here. So carefully observe what exactly we are doing here. Count matching, my array operation dot count matching. We are calling this one. Okay, this count matching internally, it is going to call this particular functional interface, because this parameter, the my function parameter, now we are calling this entire method. Now we are calling the entire method. So this is very important. Observe carefully. My operation we are calling inside the my operation. First parameter we are providing. First parameter we are providing as a method references. In place of this particular functional interface, we are providing method references. Now, whenever we are calling this particular function, it will execute this and it will return the integer value. Okay. Finally, we'll get as this particular count here. Now I am trying to print this particular count. Now observe the 65 will return 0 because it is not matched here. So 63 I am going to give. Whenever I am trying to give 63, whenever I am trying to give this particular 63, here it is matching with one record. Okay. Along with this particular count matching, now I'm trying to providing integer here. So observe carefully. Observe carefully. So this is the another way of providing. But if you are not providing also, if you are not providing the generic type also, now we are getting. So how we are getting? Because the value here. Because here, whatever the value, the parameter we are providing, the parameter internally, it will take care of the typecasting. Okay. So explicitly, no need to provide this one. So it is not required here. But if you provide also, it is not going to throw any error. Okay. This is another important. Now, the same count here, the same count method, I am trying to perform with STS. Now, if you see, because of this particular generic type, because of this particular generic type, what happening internally? This checking 63, now it is not matching. But here, what is the value we can provide? Something like 1 we can provide. Now, whenever I'm giving 1, now it will match and it will return 1 record here. Okay. Now, here you can see count 191 we are getting. The first one will come from this above operation. Second one will come from this particular below operation. So this is also important here. Method references with generic type we identified here. Okay. So still any question? Okay. Now if you don't have anything, I'm stopping the session up to here. So tomorrow we'll discuss about the constructor references here. So we identify the method references. Tomorrow we'll discuss about the few more example on this particular constructor references, as well as we identify the predefined functional interface. What are the predefined functional interface we are having? So those we'll identify here. After this particular constructor references completion, now we'll discuss about the string handling. Mostly we'll discuss about the tomorrow the string related methods. So far the method something like a two lowercase join method we defined, right? So those will identify how it is going to be implemented internally. Okay. So tomorrow also important concept we are going to discuss here. Don't miss, and I'm going to upload the today session into the particular library, and I will give you the link you can access and practice here. Okay. Anyone having any questions? Still any questions? No. Okay, if you don't have anything, we'll stop the session. We'll continue tomorrow.